Welcome to a short video summary of our Hisense U7A TV review. You can read the full in-depth review of this TV via the link in the description or by clicking the card top right of the video. The written review will cover more details of the TV performance, so be sure to visit avforums.com to read it all. This is a 2018 ULED TV from the Chinese manufacturer and was the official TV of the 2018 World Cup held in Russia. It features some interesting specifications such as 4K resolution, HDR10 and hybrid log gamma high dynamic range compatibility with wide colour gamut support. It uses a 120Hz VA panel with a bottom edge lit backlight and advanced local dimming, which means it can have a slim bezel-less design and fit on a well-designed, if familiar, footstand. It's available in 50 inches at £450, the 55 inch that we are reviewing is around £550, and the 65 inch is priced under £800 at the time of this video summary in December 2018, making it a very affordable LED LCD TV. On unpacking the H55U7A, I was surprised at the build quality on offer at this price point. It's a well-made TV with the majority of the surfaces being metal, and the U7A screen has no physical bezel, but there is a 10mm black edge to the panel image around the sides and top, with a 20mm section at the bottom of the screen. Here we get the Hisense logo in the centre of the bottom edge. The stand fixes to the bottom rear of the panel in a central position, and to either side of this are the bass drivers for the speakers. The H55U7AUK stand design is very similar to something Samsung did a few years ago, with a V-shaped wedge to the front and the stand leading forward to meet the panel at the rear. It has a brushed aluminium look with a black ridge running down the rear of the support, and the stand is fixed so you cannot swivel the screen left or right. Overall, the H55U7A has a nice contemporary design with a good level of build quality considering the price point. There's a decent set of connections on the TV with sideways and rear facing slots, and we get 4 HDMI inputs in total, with 1 rearwards facing and the other 3 are sideways. It's important to point out that only HDMI 1 and 2 are full bandwidth HDMI 2.0B compatible, and 3 and 4 are capable of only accepting HDMI 1.4 signals, so 4K up to 30p. While this is a shame, it also mirrors the approach from other manufacturers in the current market at this time. There's also support for CEC, MHL and ARC from the HDMI slots. There's built-in Wi-Fi as well, and an Ethernet slot, 3 USB ports, 1 version 3 and 2 version 2. There's also the Freeview HD and satellite tuners, as well as an optical digital output. The supplied remote control is large, rectangular and made from plastic. It has all the necessary buttons well laid out in a logical manner, with the most used within easy thumb press when held in one hand. The finish is in black with a glossy edge and satin back to the raised buttons. The rear is rounded so it fits neatly in the hand, and there is a decent weight to the unit that makes it feel solid. There are 2 large direct access buttons for YouTube and Netflix, as well as accessing apps and media connected to the TV via your network. The symbols used on the buttons, replacing the traditional text, are intuitive and easy to understand, and the keys are large enough to help find what you want in the dark. Sadly, there's no backlight. Given the simple layout of the remote control, we found it easy to find our way around the Hisense U7A and its VIDAA Smart TV features. The home button takes you to a launcher screen, which houses direct access boards for notifications, Freeview Play, apps, inputs, media and settings. You also have the option to pin other items to this homepage, from the favourite inputs to your apps or even TV channels that you watch all the time. Whilst the VIDAA system is not as advanced or as slick as the Samsung Tizen or LG WebOS platforms, we found it was fast, easy to navigate and stable with no crashes during our time testing the TV. The menu system is easy to use and intuitive, with some calibration tools available to get the picture looking as accurate as possible. There are a host of image processing features for the bottom edge lit LED TV to take advantage of, including wide colour, although the U7A doesn't feature quantum dots. There's frame interpolation and motion smoothing available in the Ultra Motion menu, along with a global dimming feature for the edge-lit backlight. Given the market position and the price of the Hisense, there won't be many owners who will opt to pay for a professional calibration costing £250 to £400. So to see content as it was intended to be seen, the out-of-the-box presets have to be as accurate as possible. We decided to use Cinema Night as we were viewing mostly in a dim room, along with gamma of 2.4 and the white balance we set to warm. Looking at the grayscale tracking, you can see that even in the warm white balance setting, there's not enough red energy. Contrast and brightness are at the default settings, so we're not clipping red energy by trying to have too much brightness. In fact, this LCD TV is really quite dim anyway. Gamma also tracks fairly well, but the darker end of the image is too bright and the curve doesn't hit the correct luminance at any point. Luckily, our eyes are not as sensitive to blue and cyan errors, so it doesn't look as bad as it would have had it had a bit more of a yellow bias. It's actually about where we would expect an out-of-the-box preset to be at this price point. However, if Hisense wanted to rule the roost, they could go for a far more accurate preset and win a lot of new fans. Moving to the colour gamut, we are looking for tracking to be close to the Rec 709 standard for SDR HD material. We can see our cyan push from the white balance results in the tracking chart here, which has pulled most of the tracking across towards the cyan side of the chart. By calibrating the white balance, we should see that these points will fall back to where they should be. So we're actually confident that with a slightly more accurate white balance setting from the factory, Hisense would be able to get a very accurate TV out of the box. So it's a shame that this one misses out on this occasion. The Hisense H55U7AUK has a full suite of calibration controls, including a colour management system and a gamma editor. As you can see in the grayscale tracking, we were able to get the tracking to be more accurate and get red energy back to where it should be. This was achieved with a 2-point white balance adjustment, as we just couldn't get the 20-point adjustments to work on this occasion, and it just didn't have the desired effect we were looking for. The same was also true of the gamma editor, which just didn't work at all in helping to get gamma close to tracking at 2.4 as we wanted. It's good to see that Hisense are trying to add in calibration controls, and that should be applauded, but they still need some fine tuning to get them working as we'd want to see them. Moving on to the Rec 709 colour gamut for HD, we can see that fixing the white point has fixed the issues with the tracking moving towards cyan. We also used the built-in CMS to apply very slight adjustments to get everything lined up as closely as we could. We then rechecked that the luminance was also where it should be, and we were really quite happy with the result obtained here, and there was no visible errors with on-screen material, with skin tones looking accurate, and no saturation issues or dodgy bright colours. All in all, the U7A puts in a very good calibrated performance. The Hisense accepts HDR10 and HLG signals, and here we selected the HDR Day preset as the night was just a little bit too dark and crushed details and blacks. We also kept the warm colour temperature and all processing was turned off, including local dimming, as we went for a manual backlight setting of full for consistent image brightness. The U7A is not a very bright LCD TV, and with HDR material it struggles to produce bright specular highlights within content. As you can see in the EOTF tracking, the Hisense H55U7A really struggles to produce a bright HDR image. It tracks some of the PQ EOTF curve, as it should, but rolls off extremely quickly just above 200 nits to a peak of around about 260 nits. Just because the Hisense is an LED LCD TV, that doesn't naturally mean it will be bright and colourful with HDR content. It appears that Hisense has gone for image consistency and tone mapped to the strengths and weaknesses of this panel, which is anything over 200 nits of brightness. HDR images are darker than on higher end sets, but there's a good degree of image detail retained in both the blacks and some of the highlights, so you get a slightly more dynamic image than normal SDR, but nothing like what higher level OLED and LED LCD TVs can produce. You really do get what you pay for. The actual colour tracking, again, was not great, but it did manage something of an attempt to try and cover some of the gamut points. This didn't turn out to be anything that we would object to with actual HDR viewing content, with most of the colours looking decent enough, if just a little drab and lacking in saturation. The U7A uses a VA panel, which means that it produces some excellent black levels, but obviously at the expense of viewing angles. Viewed directly on the Hisense gives its best performance for contrast and colour, but if you stray off even just 30 degrees, this drops off quickly. It also makes the edge LED lighting more noticeable, and you'll notice it more in the way of light pooling and clouding on screen. We also noticed some dirty screen effect and clouding at the bottom of the panel where the LEDs are positioned when we were viewing in a dimly lit room. It displays 24 frames per second material correctly with no induced judder or blur, and motion resolution was clocked at around 300 lines, which is what we'd expect from an LCD panel. Given it uses a 120Hz panel, we also saw no issues with 50 and 60Hz material, and interlace signals were also displayed correctly with no frame skipping or repeating. Watching HD broadcast material in 1080i or Blu-rays showed that the video processing on board was able to manage the job of upscaling this content to the panel's native resolution, and it also passed all our usual tests with flying colours, giving us no concerns that it can handle everyday tasks as well as the latest 4K content. There's also a games mode switch in the picture presets that should be switched on to get the lowest lag time possible, which was 31 milliseconds in both SDR and HDR. There's no fancy acoustic screen or soundbar with the Hisense, but there are stereo speakers that fire downwards from the panel, and they're powered by 15 watts per channel. Sound quality, however, is best described as functional. In daytime viewing, we had no issues with the U7A watching HD TV channels and Blu-rays. In darker rooms, we did start to notice some issues with missing shadow detail and some edge blooming around white text against black backgrounds. However, given the price point that the Hisense is available at, we've found the image quality with standard dynamic range content to be on a par with its peers, and as there's no such thing as the perfect TV, you will have to decide if you're happy with the strengths and weaknesses of the U7A. This, however, is not an HDR TV, as it just doesn't get bright enough to produce a high dynamic range image like the far more expensive models out there, but you will struggle to find a competing TV at this price level of the market that can do HDR. The U7A is a very solid TV with excellent HD quality, excellent build quality, and useful features, and a solid and stable smart TV system which offers most of the major applications in 4K as well. So given all that we've found within our review and managing expectations at this price level of the market, we definitely feel that if your budget can't go any higher, you should certainly demo the Hisense U7A, and it comes with our recommendation. We go into far more detail about this TV and more in our written review on AV Forum, so head over there now to check it out. And if you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe and press the notification bell to be told when our next review is live. You can find more reviews, news and articles like this at avforums.com, Europe's largest community for TVs, home cinema, games, tech and more. Thanks for watching.